the informed investor. Thanks to Century 21 agents, defying mediocrity and delivering extraordinary experiences.
Yeah, Warren McCarthy joins us now from Century 21. Hello, Warren.
Yes, good evening, John. How are you tonight?
I'm not too bad. Now, I've just had a look at some of these numbers from the weekend. We touched on it earlier on the Money News show, where it does look like, particularly Sydney and Melbourne, the clearance rates were up, so that suggests that things are starting to move?
Extraordinary, really. I think this is the sixth week in a row, John, that we've had auction clearance rates at numbers that were probably reflecting the boom conditions. And I was really taken by the fact that Sydney at 77.2% clearance, Melbourne at 73.6%, and that's in a week where we've had school holidays and the like, so the numbers may have been brought back as a result of that in terms of the numbers of people at the auctions. But then we saw a couple of sales, which I think are worth reporting. One in Surrey Hills in Sydney went for $700,000 over the reserve, which is extraordinary in these times.
Yeah.
Another in Canley Vale, $620,000 over reserve. Now, evidently, this particular property that was reported was a development site, and 26 people registered to buy that particular property. So it's certainly a very strong reflection that the market has recovered and is starting to now, due to a lack of supply of property available, be taken up by the demand that's there. And you know what, down in Melbourne, in a suburb called Boronia, 150 people attended the auction, a three-bedroom home with one bath, 10 bidders. It went 130,000 over reserve for 770,000. And the particular family that bought this property saw it for the first time, on the day of the auction. Can you believe that? It's quite an amazing thing. I think the stimulus, John, from the election right through to just the recent two interest rate reductions has really created a groundswell of demand to lift this market out of where it was, and it needed it. And I think it'll carry us through now from spring into the summer.
It is interesting because we see these prices, and you talk about extraordinary auction results, and sometimes there's a story behind it. I know in my street, a fellow who lives a couple of doors down from me in a semi, he's got a growing family and a place which is probably 50% bigger, freestanding across the road. Came up for auction. His parents live a few doors away as well. So for him, that house was an absolute must. So sometimes someone really wants something for a particular reason, which can push the price up.
Absolutely. Sometimes your best buyer lives in the same street or nearby, but that's an absolute fact.
Yeah. All right. Now, look, this issue of private certifiers and insurance premiums, we read today that their premiums are going up. So the people that are certifying construction, in one case from $18,000 to $220,000 in 1 year, presumably all of those costs have to be passed on to the buyer, don't they, or do they?
Well, I think you'll find that the scrutiny that's been placed of late, especially with the reports on the Mascot building and prior to that in the Olympic Village there, it's seen that the focus has been on the construction and the process and who's certifying, who's approving, and these private certifiers who've been engaged to do a lot of that work and engage with the engineers and with the builders, developers and so on. The risk has gone up and the risk has gone through the roof. I heard tenfold that their premiums have gone up. And, of course, that has to be either absorbed by the developer or builder or, in fact, I think you'll find it will be passed on to the buyers, which is not always good news.
Yep. Okay. Now, Adelaide, we often talk about it not as a hotbed of investment activity, but there's a report saying that it could become something of a sweet spot with Goldilocks conditions.
Yes, I saw that. Interesting phrase to use, but the BIS Oxford Economics Residential Property Prospects report, a mouthful, has suggested the median price there is going to go from $495,000 up to $550,000 in 3 years. Now, that's a steady as she goes number of approximately 11%. But you know what? That sits second on their report only to Brisbane, who they believe will go up 20% in their median price over the next 3 years. So for Adelaide's sake, it's always been a fairly moderate place in terms of property growth. It's never extreme, and she just is a steady as she goes state, and it's a great place to be investing in because the South Australian government has got $2 billion invested in infrastructure. and they've also allocated $100 million to push housing constructions along. So
Sure.
I think they're all good, well, for signs that that market might just start to take off down there, and why not? It's a great place to be.
And of course, the truth, as we know, is that, well, after the election, negative gearing, I think, is on the block for a long time to come. And young people
Yes.
who mightn't be able to get into the market in Sydney, Melbourne, or Brisbane, well, they can rent or live with their parents or in shared houses, and they can then buy their first property as an investment. And it can be anywhere in the country. So a place like Adelaide would be in the frame for them.
Oh, absolutely right, and it's worth looking at as an investment option for those reasons that you point out. It's an extraordinary place, and I think it will only go up over the years to come. And certainly the Oxford economics people have indicated that will be 11% over the next 3 years.
Is there any indication? I mean, we talked about, a different result, the election, we'd now be wondering what was going on with the market in terms of negative gearing being phased out for existing properties from the beginning of next year that were purchased. Now that it's continuing, Are you seeing anything, the tangible evidence that people held off and are now moving in?
Yeah, we're funny, aren't we? As humans, we tend to act out of confidence, or we retreat out of a fear. And I think there was a definite fear leading into the election as to what may be if the Labor Party had come into government. The coalition stayed, and certainly that has now revealed itself in the numbers that are coming through, not only the auctions, but also the open houses that we're having on every weekend.
Hey, Warren, great to talk to you. Thank you so much for that.
Good day. Thanks, John.
The Informed Investor, Warren McCarthy there from Century 20.